Hey guys, Kevin and Scott here at the Elite Academy of Martial Arts. A student asked me to do a video on how to feed focus mitts. So I'm just going to go over the general feeding and how to use focus mitts properly, or at least at this academy. Focus mitts from school to school and from discipline to discipline changes how they feed. We're going to focus mostly on the general feeding and how to use it across all the different arts that we have at the school, including Kune and Kale, Muay Thai, Jeet, Wing Chun. Okay guys, so I'm just going to go over general stuff and not specific things. Alright, so let's get started. First thing to consider, when beginners feed focus mitts, they sometimes just hold it out. And I see some schools, like sometimes karate schools and other places, they just leave the focus mitts out. When you're feeding, at least here, we're trying to develop an attribute as a feeder, and you're actively feeding. So when I'm feeding, I'm learning his timing, and I'm learning how to defend his attacks. If I just stand there and feed and just wait my turn, I lose that skill that I could be learning at that time. Okay? So the better a feeder you are, usually the better you're at defending and counterfighting. So you really need to develop that attribute. Some things to consider. When you're feeding your opponent, get into whatever fighting stance it is. If it's Muay Thai, get into Muay Thai stance. If it's JKD, get into your Bajang stance, Wing Chun stance, whatever. And follow him as if you're fighting. Your hands, just so that there's no mixed signals, always keep your hands tucked in close to your face like this or on your chest, so he knows you're not feeding him. Because the moment they start to flash, he thinks it's some type of feed. He might start to just swing freely and it might hit you. Okay? The other thing is, Scott's a little bit taller than me, so when we're starting, I always put the pads up. If I'm feeding headshots, I put the pads up to his head. I don't hold it low down here, okay guys? Because what happens is, for really tall people a lot of times, I notice after a few months of training with a shorter person, they end up crouching way too much. They end up crouching more than they should. They don't look very comfortable when they're punching, all right, or even when they're kicking. So make sure, as a feeder, I feed up to my fighter. Okay, guys. The other thing is, you want to feed close to the center line. Sometimes boxers, they'll feed across the line like that so that they really work on that pivot. That's good. You don't have to feed right on center because you're going to get hit. You can still feed close to you. So he's still going to pivot because it's slightly to the side of my head. So feed like that, but don't feed like, say, the jab cross out like that with your head in the middle. This is two different people. This is a guy on the left, this is a guy on the right. Try to feed the jab cross much closer like that. So it still helps him pivot, but now it's not exposing you too much unnecessarily where you're going to get hit, and also it helps him have a slightly tighter punch, okay? So that's some things to consider. So when I'm here with Scott, now actively feeding, I'm moving around with Scott, and say we're just feeding the jab. When I put up the jab, my hand isn't just relaxed, and he punches, and my hand doesn't just wobble. My hand, these are curve focus mitts, and I prefer them because they help my hand curve like this. And my hand should naturally be curved like that, and as it comes, I'm going to lightly tap it. That's the timing part. That's where I'm learning timing. So every time Scott hits, I am timing it just right, and I'm catching it. If I time it too late, he'll punch, and then I'll try to move, or I might go too early and jam him. I don't want that. I want to snatch his hand out of the air or just slap his hand. So as he jabs, again, again, again. He'll tell you I'm meeting him just at the right moment, and it really feels like he's got a good snap on his punch. He feels good about the punch, and also I'm learning proper defense so that later on when I block or counter Scott's jab, I'm able to catch it properly. Okay, same thing on the cross. Now, I learned this from my Muay Thai instructor, Arjun Chai. When I'm feeding the cross, in boxing, they'll stand here and they'll have him cross, and he's going to punch across. He's going to punch slightly across his body, because that helps him pivot. That's teaching him to turn his body so that he naturally pivots, and that's good. But in Muay Thai, we usually don't do that. I move off the line and put the hand on center, and then have him punch. The reason why is I don't want him to punch across, because it allows the Muay Thai fighter to slip easily and knee him back. So as Scott throws that cross, he's used to really throwing and turning the body really far. And as that happens, they'll slip and they'll throw a knee. And so, at least my Muay Thai instructor has us punching straight just to help avoid that a little bit, okay? But in JKD, we feed across like that. It just kind of depends on the art. But once again, he feeds across, and I catch like that. Again, I'm catching. I'm giving him a little bit of resistance. Now, if he's a heavy puncher, you give him more resistance. And if he's a light puncher, just lightly tap. Try to use more of the weight of the pad. You should really invest in a very good pad, though some are very expensive. Like these windy ones are my favorite. Okay, these are curved windy focus mitts. They're about $100. But sometimes you can get a sale and you get them for like 50 or 55. They're probably the best pads that I can find. They're my favorite because they're soft and very supple, but they're heavy enough that you can feed kicks and other things like that. They're a little bit different than boxing focus mitts that are really light and hard. Those you have to wear boxing gloves with. Okay? So say feet got the jab cross, feed him, 1, 2, again. So I'm catching. And then I just pull my hands back, move a little bit. Where I'm not really going to move off screen, but normally you would just move around. And you can spar with him, you can jab back and then have him come back. Okay? And so as I'm feeding, I'm catching actively so that I learn my defense. And also I'm bringing my hands back. And zone 1, 2, and I'm keeping my hands in and up, moving around. Sometimes I'll drop them and move around like that. That's okay. But I'm acting like I'm fighting him. So I am preparing myself to learn to defend against him. And how that translates is later on, when Scott jab cross, I can literally use the same block, the same catches that I did. When he goes, I can catch with the left hand, catch with the right hand. So if I catch with the left hand, I can, boom, counter over the top with the right hand. And if Scott jab cross and I catch 1, 2, I can counter over the top with the left hand like that. You see it? Simply by practicing that drill. Not all catches translate directly into counters, but at least it gives you the attribute to catch and then catch or defend and then return and attack later. Okay? So some things to consider also as you're feeding is Scott uppercuts and I feed him the uppercut. Sometimes people feed the uppercut really low like this. Once again, where is the chin? Okay, the chin is right about here. Even if he ducks or bobs the chin a little bit, he bobs to the side. See, the chin is still not that low. So don't feed it down here as an uppercut, because what's going to happen is Scott's going to get really low and drop his arm really low and try to uppercut. Try to put it right by his chin and then allow him to duck a little bit and then throw a proper uppercut. Okay, does that make sense, guys? And usually the rule is we're going to punch with the opposite side arm to cross. So he's going like this. If we're feeding just single punches, he'll punch with the opposite side arm like that. Okay, so right hand to his right hand and left hand to left hand like that. Okay. In some cases, we might do jab cross and he might do both on the same pad like that. That's okay, because if I feed him a jab cross hook, which we call the box pattern, he goes 1, 2, 3, very quickly like that. Some boxing, sometimes they just feed the jab cross like that, and then we feed the hook. So he goes 1, 2, 3, and in Muay Thai we usually use the box, and he goes 1, 2, 3. Okay, we do that in JKD class too. One thing to consider, depending on who you talk to, they have different preferences. One time I was taught by an instructor, and he said, feed the guy the jab cross long like that, and feed him the hook close, because the hook is supposed to be close. So Scott throws the jab, the cross, and then he throws the hook very tight like that. But if you think about it, a person's head doesn't work like that. Scott hits me in the jab cross here, 1, 2. I don't all of a sudden come in and then let him hook me close. I could, but usually if he nails me with a jab cross, I'm going to be even further away. Or I might still be in place because I'm blocking or whatever, rolling, and I'll be here. So he has to either come in or he can throw a slightly longer punch. Okay? So from another boxing coach and just watching how other feeders feed, like Freddie Roach, and when he's feeding Manny Pacquiao and other people like that, they'll feed much tighter. Okay, and that's the way I prefer, because I think in my mind, at least to me, it makes more sense. When Scott's jab crossing the guy's face right here, the guy's head is still right here for the hook. Okay, or even more, Scott can either throw a long hook, he goes jab cross, long hook, or he's going to jab cross and hop in a little bit and throw a tight hook. Does that make sense? Or an elbow. Okay, I don't feed like this anymore. I don't think it's as applicable in most situations. It's very rare that the guy will jab cross and maybe the guy comes in tight like that. He could slip. I mean, I could slip, and then when I slipped in close, he can throw that tight hook. And yeah, that works, but you can train that separately. But as far as feeding, I usually feed much tighter. So the uppercut would be like jab cross uppercut right here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, jab cross hook. Okay? Some things to consider, another thing to consider, the body hook. Sometimes students feed the body hook down here by the groin. That's a groin hook, and that's fine if you're aiming for the groin. But if you're aiming for the ribs, put it right next to the rib, guys. Don't feed like the head here and then the body way down there. He's throwing like a bolo punch to the crotch, okay? So right here to the ribs. Okay, guys? Some other unique feeds that you'll see. Sometimes you'll see feeders feed like that. That's for a really heavy shovel hook, and you can double up on uppercuts because those are just really powerful. But that's also how we feed kicks. I can feed a kick like this. The only difference is punches I'll keep a little bit closer to me. The kicks I'll leave a little bit more space so that his foot doesn't hit me. So when Scott's kicking, I can hold it out and just catch his kick like that. So as he kicks, obviously Scott's throwing a more snapping style kick like Savat or JKD, not in Muay Thai. If Scott throws his Muay Thai kick, he'll break my hands, and I cannot catch or feed his full strength Muay Thai kicks. I need Muay Thai pads. Okay, but a normal JKD kick I can catch. So I hold it out and he snaps it or a rear one. That's still pretty hard when he throws that rear one. He's snapping his kick and not following all the way through. But because my pads are heavy, I'm able to feed him just a little bit better. With the really light pads, I cannot do it. He'll really hurt my hand. So the other thing about feeding is I want to give him a lot of resistance, but if he's really powerful and it hurts, don't resist him that much. You're just going to end up crushing your hands. Okay? So I hope those few tips and just some pointers will help most of my students understand how to feed properly. Remember to keep your hands up and remember to act like you're sparring. So anytime you're doing the drills, ask yourself, am I moving realistically or am I just robotic? I don't want to stand here and just stand here and look away and not pay attention and just keep having Scott say do the jab cross hook. Okay, I want to move around, actively have him feed the jab cross hook. Again. And I would circle him to the left, step to the right, circle, step back, moving all around again. And then you can start to add the jab, bring it right back, and then the jab, bring it back. Just working on that jab cross hook again. And then boom, I can pop. So now it's becoming very realistic. I'm actively blocking with my pads, learning his timing. And I am attacking him back, I'm protecting myself, I'm moving too. So the transition from him attacking me and me just feeding him, and him attacking me and I'm actually defending and blocking is a very smooth transition. Obviously the hook right now, I'm catching with this, but you're not learning the defense, you're learning the timing to do the defense, which is huge. A lot of people practice techniques. They practice, I'm gonna do this block when this person does that, I'm gonna do this other block, but they never actually work the timing. And so when they spar, it doesn't work for them. They fail and they get hit. It's the equivalent of saying, picking up a bat and swinging a bat in the air with no one throwing a ball at you. And you just swing the bat all day long. And you say, hey, I can hit that ball when that ball comes. And then a guy pitches a ball at you at 90 miles an hour. You're never going to hit the ball. You need to sit in front of the plate and have a ball thrown at you. And you actually swing and try to hit that ball to actually practice properly. Does that make sense? You need to work on that timing. Okay? All right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave any comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you.